it along anymore. Pam, we got two unbelievable guests in here, man, and they're talking about going to share some things with us that's coming up real soon, and some things that we need to take heed to because it's very, very important. A good friend of the show, known this guy for a long time, Farad Lee's up in the building. His sidekick, Cristiaan, is up here as well. They're representing the Heart Association. Welcome to the Sports Shop, gentlemen. How y'all doing? Y'all good?
Happy to be here.
Oh, man. So I let's tee this thing up. You guys represent co-chairs of the Heart Ball, which is the Heart Association, which is the 100th anniversary. Mm-hmm. Are you serious?
Yes.
Of this organization. So talk about the organization, if you will. Initially, they're going to get into the Heart Ball and things of that nature.
Yeah, so again, thank you for having us.
No problem.
Awareness on this.
Yeah.
So 100th anniversary, co-chaired by Farad and myself. So the Heart Ball takes place at the end of March 23rd, Raleigh Convention Center. Have several hundred executives coming to the ball to raise awareness around heart condition, heart disease, and how it impacts our community. Oh,
man, that's unbelievable. So Farad represented 1911. I mean, he didn't send me the memo, but he's doing his thing. I ain't mad at him, but we were a little early in 1911. They came a little later. But anyway, that notwithstanding, why did you get involved with this?
Yeah, I think it's really important for me. Cristiaan and I got active with the American Heart Association probably about 7 years ago by being on the board of the American Heart Association here in the Triangle.
Right.
And what we quickly learned is around how health equity affects our community. And so we were focused on how do we not just talk about heart issues and the fact that people were dying, but what we found in the statistics that African-American women were dying at a greater pace from the heart issues. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to use ways to inform our community by working with the places of worship, churches, sororities, fraternities, because we wanted to make sure we get the Panhellenic active in that space.
Good idea.
Awesome. That's a good segue to my question when you talk about health equity and women, being a woman and recognizing the importance of heart health. What have you found out? Because transparency is that we go to the doctor and we say my shoulder hurt, different things, and they're not paying attention to the heart. And we could sometimes end up having a heart attack because of that. But what have you found out about that?
Yeah, what we found out is that there's so many different things that lead in our community to heart health issues, right? And we know that some of that is diet, some of that may be exercise, it may be hereditary issues, or it may be something leading to heart condition. Like, my grandmother may have had diabetes and her heart ends up failing her later on. The big issue, though, is how do we increase awareness? Because if we know that Black women are dying faster from heart disease, we need to be able to provide them resources around how to get their heart health checked on. If it's having CPR, lessons to understand what to do if someone dies or has a heart event. How do we make sure we have defibrillators in places where we know the Black community is?
Absolutely.
Make sure it's in their apartments, make sure it's in housing associations, make sure that we educate. So we don't want to always be reactive to a heart attack. We think it's in our community. It's important that we be proactive by informing people of the heart awareness of pushing it, so that if we know that Black women die faster from heart disease, how do we go to places where Black women are and increase their awareness?
Right.
And we know that a lot of times you're head of the household in places, and we want to make sure that we know that if there's an event in a family, a heart attack doesn't just affect the person that it hurts, but it also affects lots of family members.
Absolutely. And one thing I think that's real key, because we're taught all the time every year, make sure you get your mammogram.
Yep.
But we don't have that awareness. It's not top of mind to make sure, that when you go to the doctor, you press that issue, am I having the test needed for my heart?
Wow, man. It's Wellness Wednesday, and we can't have a better topic than we have today. So, Cristiaan, I'm going to get a little personal with you a little bit. Obviously, you had your own battle with this, with your heart situation. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, so my dad struggled for a long time with his heart and didn't realize that he was a consultant for a long time, traveled all over the world, didn't exercise, didn't eat well. He was a Dutchman. We like our beer, so we would, drinking and smoking and things, and just didn't think about his ticker till he was probably in his early 60s and was starting to retire and realized he had a huge blockage in one of his arteries. So they did a big surgery, got a pacemaker. Fast forward a few years later, kind of wasn't getting fixed, and then he just died of a massive heart attack in his early 70s. Right, so now, we just had our fourth child, who's 3 years old. Right, never got a chance to meet his granddad, and so just things like that impacts a lot more than just the person that suffers from it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And my dad, had great health care, was aware of it, knew what was going on, and he still died. And so our thought is, how many people can we encourage to go get your numbers checked? Because things like blood pressure and cholesterol are leading indicators for this stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
So for me and my family, it affected us in a deep way. So
yeah, it's interesting. Everybody in this room, everybody in the studio, very educated, and education have nothing to do with in terms of book education, but in terms of awareness, like you're talking about, we need to be more educated that way.
Absolutely.
I myself, over a period of time, I was having issues, just shortness of breath. I walked 50 yards or whatever, I felt tired. So one day I went to a concert over the D-Pack, and I was walking from the parking deck, and by the time I got to the doggone arena, I was done. So I said, I got to go get this thing checked out. And I went in, just walked into emergency, and they checked me out. Next thing I know, I was in the hospital. 95% on one side, 92% on the other side.
Wow.
And, they said I had a heart event, but they never said I had a heart attack. Long story short, though, I ended up getting medication, just to, blood pressure, because it's my stupid self. I was on blood pressure medication. I stopped taking it because I'm an idiot. And so anyway, that got me. Education is very, very important. That's what I'm talking about. So that got me to the point where I started taking it again, and every time I go back with my doctor, my numbers were looking good. But he shared something with me. He said, well, if you want to live to be 75, then you can still just maintain with your medication. But you want to live a lot longer than that, you're going to have surgery. So I had a quintuple,
wow,
5,
wow,
bypass.
Wow.
And I tell you, right before that, my daughters was in the room. I was like, well, let's rock and roll and see what's going to happen. But the people at Duke University are great doctors, man. They was very, very pleased. 12 hours. I went on my birthday.
Wow.
And 12 hours later, they was very, very pleased, and that was 5 years ago. So this topic is really germane and important to me. Don't think I'm a former athlete. Don't think you that dude or that lady that you don't need to worry about your heart. Your heart is very important, and you got to focus on that. And I know you guys share a lot of things with us today, but I'll tell you that to me personally, the results could have been different.
Yeah.
And I pushed myself to go to the doctor because I wasn't feeling right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you can be feeling well and still have issues, so you still got to go check it out. So from a personal perspective, when I heard you guys coming in and talk about this, I was really excited because it's something that I really want to talk about.
Well, and again, I'm just getting to know you. I've known you for almost a decade, and you and Calvin, if you would have passed, it would have left a crater in our community. What you do and what you speak about and you bring together.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that you're doing well and working is incredible. But if we lose you, we don't just lose you. We lose all the people you impact, all the people you care about, all the charities you getting us here. And so getting people to understand it's more than just about you. It's about your daughters, about your community, about your show.
And by the way, I thought about this on the way in today. I know we was going to talk about this. I have a grandson who's like my first grandson who's 14 weeks old.
Oh, no way.
And it's like my life has changed.
Yes.
And I'm thinking like, man, I might want to have a chance to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. It's personal. So thank you guys and this is very, very important. Anything we can do to help support you guys, we're going to do.
Absolutely. This is awesome. We are talking to Farad Ali and Cristiaan with the American Heart Association. Before we go any further, because we talk a lot off mic, and we come up in this great story. So I would love for the audience to hear your story. How did the two of you guys meet? How did all of this come together?
Y'all want me to take
you go first.
So again,
there's two different versions, man. The PBS version.
That's funny.
So if y'all are watching the show, you already know who he is. So I'll leave that there. So we overlapped on the board of the American Heart Association about 6 or 7 years ago. He was doing amazing work here. I was just kind of understanding what that meant for me. A local organization here called RTI International invited me to walk through a training called White Ally Training, which made me aware of things like being white in America and white privilege and where I grew up, which was in New Canaan, Connecticut.
Okay.
At the time, the richest zip code in the country. I'm an MBA from Duke, worked at Heijmen Struggles. I kind of knew all these private equity people, and I was sort of called him, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing enough with my access to people like this. Gotcha. What do you think? And I'd third, like being a white ally and things I had never thought about. So I reached out to Farad, and he's a great question asker, right? Why are you asking me these questions? What do you think about these things? And so I said, I'm not really sure, but I think I want to figure it out. And so our journey led us to think about starting up a business together. We were more intentional about bringing together communities that wouldn't necessarily know each other. Like the fact that you and I had never met and Calvin and I had never met until 6-9 months ago is crazy to me. But I realized a lot of my network was a white network of, old Chatham and playing golf at Trayburn and things. And so how do you, even though we belong to Elevation Church, which is a very diverse church here in the Triangle, we've planted the Durham campus with Claude and Keisha, our pastors, but that's how I got into this thing, and then we decided to start a business together and the American Heart stuff. But I'll let you share your perspective on how we met.
No. It's a great story, and one of the things that we talked around is how when you're building a community, we can't build community segmented, right? You got to make sure you build community with all people.
That's right.
And so a lot of times we look at different people for just transactions, but we really want to transform communities. So he had a background in working with placing people in businesses and as I call it, at the grass tops, CEOs, CFOs, chief human resource officers, board members. And I had a history of working on equity and diversity. And so we decided to come together and say, how do we help people at the grass tops and the grassroots? How do we partner to build community, make sure people get to know one another so that he can know Calvin Crossland, who's the president of the foundation at Lenovo, but also talk about the impact that we make in our community. So we also want to look at what impact can we make in our community by having people be more intentionally aligned to work together, live together, play together, because as the Triangle continues to grow and becomes a greater diverse community, I think we need to have more practice on making sure we do this the right way and not find ourselves becoming a bifurcated community where we have rich and poor, black and white, but more an integrated community, because diversity matters. And we know diversity matters a lot when we come together and we get greater ideas. And we've mastered that in sports. We just haven't mastered it in business.
Powerful.
Exactly. We talked to Farad and Cristiaan here representing the Heartball and the Heart Association. Let's get into the Heartball. We really ain't got into that yet. Let's talk about what it is and when it is and what can people expect and how can people get involved.
Yep. Yes. So logistically, it's on the 23rd of March at 6 o'clock. It's at the Raleigh Convention Center. I don't want to say it's sort of super swank, but it's hard to sort of buy an individual ticket. But the point of that was we wanted companies to come and say, we'll buy a table, we'll buy a couple of tables, we'll invite people into that room that we want to experience. I was invited 8 years ago by Jeff Lang, who was the kind of employee one with MetLife here, and he really helped set the stage for me. And in the years since, we've had incredible leadership. Tom Greco, the CEO of Advanced Auto, has led it. Peter Benton, the CEO of Worldwide Clinical Trials, Joy Clark. We've just had it like a star-studded list of people leading, which makes you wonder why they chose us. But
star-studded.
But the event that night is really meant to be a celebration in one way, but also to plant seeds for the next 100 years. So how do we get people like Tunde Sotunde, right, the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's gone to all the 100 counties and met all the people, right? So Tunde, we want you and your wife there at the event. We want you guys to experience what this is like. So we plant seeds for the next 100 years. And the Divine Nine, making sure there's chapter presidents that are available there. If you can come join us, we would love to have you there. We'd love to have you there.
Absolutely.
So getting people in our community that are there, that hear the story and go, wow. This is bigger than just us.
That's about the Divine Nine, which I'm a proud member of.
Right. Which one are you in?
You don't have to ask.
I'm not sure.
I want my red today because red is for hard money, right? So
we're the outliers.
But I do have some capital stuff that I can put on.
Okay.
Talk about the Divine Nine and why that's important.
I think it's important. I mean, we know we have wonderful fraternities and sororities in this region that is doing a lot of great public service work and really around community. We want to incentivize and help people understand the men of the Divine Nine in their fraternities to really appreciate women and appreciate family by raising the awareness, by serving, understanding your numbers. What are the things that we need to do to to incentivize and support that? And then for the women in the sororities, we know that they had Go Red for Women, where no matter what color you wore, women wore red.
Even AKAs had red on, which they don't like wearing that, but they had it on though.
Right. So we had Go Red for Women. So we want to increase the awareness there. So we know the Divine Nine is not color conscious. It's more around, staying alive, health equity.
Yes, that's right.
And we want the black men in these fraternities to be supportive of the women, and we want the women in the sororities to be supportive of themselves, and then we want to be supportive of our whole community. Because one of the things that we talk around, Cristiaan and I talk about, if there's no health, there's no wealth. And we can't build a prosperous, shared prosperity community if one community is sick. And so we want to make sure that the community can be so it can be wealthy. And so we want to be focused on how do we do that.
Man, you want my mic? Because that was pretty smooth. There, man.
Yes.
He dropped the mic on that one.
No.
But man, again, how can people reach out? How can people get involved, or how can they intend to talk about?
Yeah, well, it's the 100-year anniversary.
It's
we have people giving and corporations at big dollar amounts. So we thought in our community, it's the 100th year anniversary. How do we get 100 people to give $100 or 100 kids to give $1 just to give towards this? Because this allows for the American Heart Association to provide CPR classes, defibrillators in communities of color. And so we're talking around how do we raise the awareness, raise the capital, and then raise the way we can go into communities and make a difference. So social economics is also important.
Yeah, you made me think about the situation with the Buffalo Bills defensive back.
Oh, yeah.
And what the NFL is trying to do around that, because having those things available so they can help people who may be suffering or may be in a situation like that.
Yeah, that's right. And again, we have, LeBron's son had a heart
Yes,
condition
that's
go
another
out.
one.
And so they're dealing with that as a family. And so all these public figures and so Lamar's been a part of the American Heart Association, stories being told. He's kind of a spokesperson for them at a national level. But yeah, it really is like, you learn that sometimes just telling something to somebody doesn't do anything. So how do we, like Farad said, how do we go into the communities? What it would mean like to have churches in the parking lot afterwards, have people taking blood pressure and asking questions and saying, hey, get you, not expecting people that are already stressed and already have a lot on their plate. And we're all dealing with mental health issues. Every community is dealing with that. So it's not saying you're bad, you should be checked out, go here. It's how do we go to you? How do we be in your community, and how do we show up at your doorstep and ask you for your numbers? That's what we're really trying to do.
And how the Divine Nine could be agents of that, right?
Yes.
Conduits.
Yes.
So how do we take all this beautiful purple and gold, old gold?
Well, that's a personal opinion.
I understand. But how do we become conduits and catalysts for changing communities? And how does the other fraternities and the other sororities do the same thing? Just go into our communities, just increase the awareness. And so if we could know our numbers, how much that could be impactful.
Yeah. And so, for example, on our ELT, we have...
What's ELT mean?
So on our executive leadership team, our executive leadership council, so we have folks like Calvin, right, the president of the Lenovo Foundation, the chief diversity officer for Lenovo is on our board, right? But then we also have Claude Thomas, who's the pastor of Elevation Church, and Chad, who's the CEO of Mako Medical. So Chad wants to spend $50,000 and help local churches figure out a way to reach their people. So Claude and him and Jeff, who's on with Aetna, they're all on our team. So we have Aetna. So we have kind of a health insurance company, Mako Medical, and then a pastor of a church getting together and saying, how do we bring this to the people? So those being super connectors like that, we're trying to get people in the room to figure out how they can partner together in these ways. Not just saying, hey, Calvin, give us $50,000. Like, how do you want your money to go to use in the community? Right. And because he's in our community, he can help us.
Man, this has been so great.
Enlightening and educational and all that,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
One thing we didn't mention, if you can tell us, because it's so much information that came out today, what's the website address, or how can people go to learn more about heart health and how it impacts our community and this amazing event, the 100th anniversary of the Heart Ball?
So I would say go to American Heart Association Triangle. And there you can donate. You can learn about the Heart Ball. You can also learn about how to get CPR classes. We can do this for schools, businesses, religious groups, any groups that go on. So American Heart Association Triangle. We're excited. We can provide additional information for you later. They would direct website and phone numbers and the people to call to be direct to make sure people can be addressed. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Man, this has been great. I didn't think we'd have enough time because when Farad comes on, you're gonna need at least 3 or 4 hours. just so he can convey his point.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness!
He did well. He did well.
But no, thank you for those stories.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to share my story. I never shared it like that. I think I may have talked about it before.
That's the first time I heard it
but
like that.
Not in detail like that.
Yes.
And that's exactly where it was. And it was frightening, to be honest with you. I was scared, but God blessed me to take my butt to the hospital and make sure that people knew a lot more about that than I did, though, to take care of me, and it worked out so well. But no, make sure you go check it out. Again, it's give me the dates again.
Heart Ball, March 23rd, 6 o'clock, Raleigh Convention Center.
And how many people you expecting there?
So about 350.
Oh wow! I went one time. I was at the museum or something downtown.
They moved it.
Yeah.
It's outgrown. So
Yeah.
now we're doing Raleigh.
353.
Yeah.
Reese came back.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, there you go.
Pal, make sure she get hers in there.
That's right.
But
That's right. We would love to
definitely-
have you.
We definitely will be there, and I think it's important. Here to it. I mean, thank you, Farad. Thank you,
Yes,
Cristiaan,
thank
man.
you
We
so
appreciate
much.
you guys,
Thank
and you'll be hearing more about this. Hey, man, we just